Hi everyone, hope you're doing great. In this case study, we will be diving into Argosy Properties' 2019 insurance claims following the occurrence of the Kaikoura earthquake in 2016.
We will first explain the material facts of the case, and this will then be followed up by a brief timeline to clearly outline key events. Next, we will discuss proactive property management steps that could have been taken to minimise the issues Argosy faced after the disaster. Finally, we will provide a brief summary of the case and conclude our analysis.
The 7.5 magnitude Kaikoura earthquake occurred on the 16th of November 2016. The aftermath of the disaster resulted in thousands of buildings being destroyed, businesses shutting down, and almost 40,000 insurance claims. Commercial office space in the Wellington market fell by around 100,000 square metres. One of these losses was Argosy's 14-floor property at 7 Waterloo Quay, which, although structurally sound, suffered damage to its fit-out and services. Only by 2019 was it finally ready to be leased again, resulting in a massive loss of rental income over the 2 years following the disaster.
Argosy lodged a total claim of $65.8 million with its insurers NZI and QBE. $50.7 million of this was for reinstatement works on the material damage previously mentioned that were preventing reoccupation. The amount had not been previously agreed with insurers, and this was only an interim claim, and more would be lodged as work continued. Furthermore, the remainder of the claim of $15.1 million was compensation for business interruption, mostly referring to loss of rent over the 2 years.
The length before reinstatement works could commence and be completed depended largely on when agreements with insurers could be made, something highly uncertain when such large funds are involved. For example, in this scenario, there was debate with insurers over the extent of the damage, repair, and the method to be used and how much the insurers would cover, preventing speedy reinstatement. The seismic work alone to prevent the building's reported unrestrained sway was estimated to cost around $27 million and could only be completed by November 2019. A final settled amount of $47.5 million with a deductible $4.9 million was reached.
In this case, the process for Argosy claiming insurance for the damage caused to the building took place over a 3-year period. On November 14, 2016, the 7.5 magnitude Kaikoura earthquake occurred, damaging Argosy's 14-level property at 7 Waterloo Quay in Wellington. November 2016 to November 2018 was a 2-year period for which Argosy claimed loss of rent, totaling $14.2 million. In mid-November 2018 was the end of the period for the loss of rent claims. In 2019, Argosy submitted an interim insurance claim of $39.6 million for reinstatement works. Argosy reports receiving $20.9 million in progress payments from insurers after a $4.9 million deductible. March 31, 2019 was the date of Argosy's financial reporting, showing full year 2019 results, including the insurance claim details.
Unlike the majority of risks affecting property, the risk of disasters cannot be avoided. For seismic risk, the only true way to avoid the risk as a property investor is to simply not invest in property and instead find another type of investment. This is unrealistic and unhelpful in practice. Instead of focusing on avoiding the risk, it is more practical to change the likelihood of it occurring or minimizing the consequences of the risk.
In order to minimize the likelihood of earthquake damage, this could be done by choosing a less earthquake-prone location. Although Wellington may be a desirable location for business and demand due to being the capital, it is at high risk of seismic activity compared to Auckland, which would provide a lesser seismic risk while still maintaining its appeal in terms of demand and market activity.
Another method of proactive property management is minimizing consequences. As previously mentioned, there wasn't structural damage, only material damage to its services and fit-outs. However, it was reported to have an issue with unrestrained sway, which caused much of the fallout and resulted in an estimated $27 million to fix. In order to increase the seismic strength of the building and prevent said damages, initial and detailed seismic assessments should be obtained. This is particularly relevant to 7 Waterloo Quay, which is an old building, and was only upgraded to 80% of the new building standard, which is an assessment of seismic rating, in 2019.
Final proactive step to take is sharing the risk with a third party, in this instance the insurance companies INZ and QBE. Based on monthly paid premiums, the insurers will pay an agreed level of compensation when the risk happens against a set of insured risks. Landlords must be careful when insuring, as only an agreed set of risks will be entitled to compensation. For seismic risk, many insurers have now pulled out of covering it after the Kaikoura earthquakes. In this instance, it is clear it was covered due to the compensation given. However, many insurers base their willingness to provide coverage and compensation on the property's new building standard percentage. As 7 Waterloo Quay was increased to 80% new building standard in 2019, only after the claims were made and insurance policy agreed, it likely would have received greater compensation now than at the time. This ties back to the previous point of ensuring seismic strength is maximised.
As a recap, Argosy lodged a total claim of $65.8 million, with $50.7 million for reinstatement works and $15.1 million for business interruption following the 2016 Kaikoura earthquake. Ultimately, this case demonstrates the importance of taking proactive measures in managing commercial property in order to mitigate or at the very least decrease potential risk.
Here is a list of references we have drawn information from in making this presentation. Thank you for listening.